Okay guys, welcome to today's class. So first, I'm gonna give you guys a recap about our Monday's class. So on Monday, we discussed this elaboration likelihood model, which is sometimes we call it ELM for short. So this ELM proposes two major routes, which may lead to persuasion, the central route and the peripheral route. So under the central route, this persuasion will likely result from a person's careful and thoughtful consideration of the arguments in this message. So this central route involves a high level of message elaboration, and the receivers are gonna generate a great amount of cognitions. On the other hand, this peripheral route persuasion will result from a person's association with positive or negative cues presented in the stimulus. So basically, the message receivers, they're more likely to be looking for some simple cues in the message or the message source. And then they will make a very simple inferences, whether this product is good or not, based on those simple cues. For example, the simple cues may include something like whether the message source is good looking or not, whether this product has a fancy package or not. And we also talked about several strategies that a company or the message source, message sender could use as some peripheral cues to, try to achieve their persuasion goals, such as, liking, social proof, scarcity, and authorities. And today we're gonna continue talking about this elaboration likelihood model. But before we look into today's class, one thing I want to make a note regarding this central and the peripheral routes is that these two routes, they are not mutually exclusive, right? So which means that you can use these two ways to process information simultaneously. They are not exclusive against each other. So they are more like two poles on a cognitive processing continuum that shows the degree of mental effort a person exerts when evaluating a message. So your processing of the information could be perfectly sitting anywhere along this continuum, such as here. So if you are sitting here, probably you are gonna use more peripheral route to process the information. At the same time, you also use some central route to process the information. You may rely on more the peripheral cues to make a decision, to make a judgment or evaluation compared with the arguments presented in the message. But if you are sitting somewhere here, so you are more likely to process the arguments of the message. You are gonna critically and carefully evaluate of the message. But at the same time, you may also take some peripheral cues into consideration, but not that much. So my point here is these two routes, they are not mutually exclusive. You can use both of them at the same time, but it's more like an exchange issue. Which one you use more, which one you are using less. So we have talked about what is central route, what is peripheral route. I think a more relevant question for us to consider is how these processing routes would influence the persuasiveness of the message. So what is persuasive of the message? It refers to whether this message is convincing, whether this message is effective or persuasive enough to get people, persuaded or convinced. So let's take a look about the relationship between the processing routes and the persuasiveness of the message. So here I'm going to show you guys a graph. Looks a little bit complicated, but let me break it down. So we can see the y-axis is the persuasiveness of the message, whether this message is convincing, whether this message can cause a desirable attitude change. And this x-axis represents the strength of your argument, whether your argument is strong or solid enough. And this right line represents the central route people may take. And this blue line is the peripheral route people may take when they process the information. So this central and peripheral routes, which of the route will lead to a better effect of the message? But the answer is which one works better really depends on the argument strength. So let's look at this part of this diagram first, this left part. So if the argument has a poor quality, it's not solid or strong enough, it's pretty weak and loose, the peripheral route, this blue line, will achieve better persuasive effect. So in this case, if you don't have a very good quality for your product, or if you don't have very strong arguments in your message, you may want to work on these peripheral cues to make your product or message look attractive, look nice, right? So we see lots of examples in our reality. Say if a product doesn't have very good quality, we may want to do some makeup, such as a nice package, such as kind of invite a celebrity to endorse this product in order to increase the message or the product, the credibility. But what if you got really good quality product or your argument is pretty strong and solid? So let's look at, where is my mouse? Okay. So let's look at the right part of this diagram. So we can see that if you have really strong argument or very good quality for your product, the central route will work better than the peripheral route to lead a more resistant and enduring attitude change, right? So it's pretty intuitive. Think about it. If your product is really good, it should sell itself. You don't need to worry about its package or some other positive images, because people will learn its merits, its strengths sooner or later. The product quality will speak for itself. Okay? But the ideal situation is you have a very strong argument or very good quality for your product. At the same time, you can also spend some money on its package, on some kind of peripheral cues to make it look nice. Okay, so this is the relationship between processing routes and the persuasiveness of the message. So when a product is presented to you or you are exposed to a message, there is so much information in this product or in this message, it is impossible for us to process every single piece of information in a central route. Especially nowadays, we have millions of different media, thousands of information coming up to us. So we may only pick some information to read, or process it in a central way. So next, I'm going to talk about some factors which may determine whether people would process the information centrally or peripherally. So this ELM proposed two factors determining which route people may take. The first one, we call it motivation. And second one, we call it ability. So generally speaking, if you want to process information in a central way, the first thing you got to do is you are motivated to process information centrally. And second, you also got to have the knowledge, the ability to process information in a central route. If you lack any of these two, say you are not quite motivated to carefully evaluate the message, or you don't have the ability or the knowledge to understand the message, you will go into the peripheral route instead of the central route to process that information. So in next video, we're going to talk about these two factors in details.